Well, good afternoon and welcome to Good Reasons to Believe. I'm Alan Darley, and a special welcome to you if you've tuned in today to hear Peter Genovese for the first time on this show. And apologies for me messing up last time in trying to get him on air. If this is the first time you've tuned in, Good Reasons to Believe does aim to show that there are good reasons to believe in God, and in particular in the God as revealed in Jesus Christ. And this show is part of a wider group called the New Covenant Group. And the New Covenant Group aims to bring people together in dialogue from different perspectives to discuss the meaning of life and issues about God. So it's a great delight today to have Peter with us. Peter is the owner of both a Facebook page and a Facebook group called Atheism, which attracts a very large number of people, over 12,000 members. And Peter, when we were discussing this show, said that he really wanted this show to be a man-to-man, unrehearsed, live, unscripted show. So basically anything could happen today. It's very exciting. And you, the live audience, can also take part. Please text in your comments on Peter's comments or my comments throughout the show. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Peter onto the show. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hello, I understand it's quite early out there. Is it about 8 o'clock or something in
Yeah,
in
not
LA?
too bad. It's 8 a.m., so it's okay.
Yeah. So thank you. I guess most of your friends are still asleep, and it's great to have you on the show today.
Yeah, definitely.
So I just wondered if you could tell us, because a new member on one of your pages was asking about the group and saying, what's atheism? What's an atheism forum about? Because you wouldn't have a forum for someone who doesn't play bowls or someone who doesn't collect stamps, for example. So
Yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about why and how you set up your page?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the history for me, basically, it goes as a youngster. I myself, I was a believer. I believed in God, and growing up around people that believed, it was the normal thing for me. I mean, my mom was a believer, and other family members, were church-going people, and so of course I believed in God and all that kind of stuff. And as I grew up, I would say probably when I got to college, I probably started questioning things when I got to college, maybe end of high school and starting college. And basically just starting to question, how real is the idea of God and what does it mean and all that stuff? What does it mean to me? And as I progressed through my college years and just used my mind more, thought about things and the way the life is, the way the world works and all that kind of stuff, I slowly but surely, veered towards being agnostic at first, and then eventually went the way of atheism, which was basically, as you guys know, just not a believer anymore. I've always been a pretty active, or actually a very active person on social media, and I've been on Facebook ever since they first started. So it was kind of natural for me to decide to maybe create a group for atheism. And I think at the time that I was originally early on, there wasn't really too many groups. So I decided to create one. I think I originally created the Facebook page just because I think that at the time that's all there was. There were just pages. And basically the reason I did that was because I had questions myself about atheism, and I knew we're very much the minority out of the world. So I wanted an avenue to be able to speak to other atheists who are like-minded people, that just basically about anything. I mean, it could have been topics about anything. It could be about religion. It could be about people's beliefs. And I remember one of the very first conversations I had. One of the very first members I had that joined was a very religious person, and this guy, started debating with me about religion and why I should believe, why don't I believe, and we went back and forth for several days. And it was mostly just he and I, because at the time there was very few members on the group, maybe about 20 people or something like that.
Right.
So it was just him and I just having a frank discussion about religion back and forth. There was much respect given back and forth to each other, and basically the end result was we both agreed to disagree, and
Mm.
we actually became friends out of it. He's a friend of mine on my Facebook account now, and we just had mutual respect for each other, and we just agreed to disagree at that point. So
Yeah.
I created it as an avenue to be able to talk to other people about either atheism or religion, because I invite both religious people as well as atheist people and anybody who wants to join. I mean, it could be anybody from all walks of life. I don't really limit anybody who can join. All I do
Yeah.
is, as you know, is I try to keep the spam away and all that kind of stuff, which is obviously, that's obvious in the trolls, and that's always a fun game.
Yeah.
So basically, after a while, I think Facebook decided to come out with groups, and they turned pages into a different entity, whereas it was a little bit harder to have discussions in pages because
Mm.
pages were more geared towards businesses and things like that. So I decided to create a group as well, and which was easier to have debates and talk to people back and forth. So the group, although it's got less members, it is much more lively, and that's where most of the debates and discussions happen is on the group, because it's just more conducive to talking with each other. So
Yeah.
that's where we do most of our talking.
Certainly attracted a lot of interest, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I guess you were one of the first to seize on that name, and
Yeah.
so you've got one of the biggest groups there.
Yeah, and so I keep it. It's an approval only membership. I mean, the group is open, so anybody who wants to join has to just click join, and then I have to approve it. So I do try to look at most people and make sure they're not spammers or anything like that. So yep.
Maybe you'll get a few more members after today's show.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Come on in, welcome.
Just kind of a little bit off the track. I noticed on I think it might have been your own page. You were talking about how you were a bit of a good Samaritan. I think the other week, somebody's car had broken down, and you were there to help out. And this guy had an open Bible on his dashboard.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
do you think maybe that God could be on your case there, and that you were actually the answer to this fella's prayer?
You know what? Anything can happen. I'm sure in his world, I'm sure it had everything to do with God and me just showing up and being there at the right time to help the guy and help him get a jump, and because his battery was dead and all that kind of stuff, and it looked like he had just come from a Bible class. So I'm sure that he definitely thinks it had something to do with God. And then as far as I'm concerned, it was a coincidence. And it could be argued both ways.
Yeah.
So obviously,
I think you should expect some more coincidences, because I'm praying for you. So.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And whenever people actually do say they pray for me, and I do hear that from time to time, and I appreciate it. Thanks for praying for me. I mean, I do appreciate it, and I don't joke about it, because I know it's something that's important for religious people. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for anybody. I don't try to put anybody down. Whatever you want to believe, that's up to you. Whatever I believe, that's what I believe or don't believe.
Yeah.
So when people say they pray for me, I actually appreciate it. Thank you, because it means that you actually care enough to do that.
Yeah, and likewise, we appreciate your respect. I think you might also be welcome on some of the other host shows. Well, not to speak for them, but I think they would be appreciative of your style. So, perhaps you could tell us, it's an atheist forum. So, what would be your understanding of atheism as the meaning of the word?
Well, for me, I mean, it was a gradual progression towards eventually not believing that there is a higher power that exists. And then the definition for somebody like me who just doesn't believe that a higher power exists is, I guess I'm grouped into the world called atheism. So I mean, my personal beliefs or lack of beliefs basically is I don't believe there's a higher power out there. I think we're all just a random chance, a random act of craziness. And when I talk to religious people who say, oh, how can you believe that we're so random? I mean, the way that an eyeball works is so, advanced and, ridiculous, or the brain and everything, it's impossible that it can be a random chance. But to me it's not. To me it is that impossible random chance. People say
Mm.
like, us living on Earth or us existing is just ridiculous odds. One in quadrillions of whatever chance that we're alive. How can that
Yeah.
be a random chance? But to me, we are that random chance. We are that one in whatever billion quadrillion number. Like we're the proof that chance can happen. So as far as I'm concerned, it is that random chance, and we are a product of random chances that just have
Mm.
eventually formed to the way of us being humans on this earth, and being intelligent beings and stuff like that.
Mm. That's quite interesting because I noticed also, I don't know if this was your quote or if it was someone else posting it on your page. I believe you were quoting Einstein with approval, and when Einstein said that a religious mindset was a knowledge of the existence of something we cannot penetrate, of the manifestations of the profoundest reason and the most radiant beauty, which are only accessible to our reason in their most elementary forms. And then he goes on. And
Yeah, I don't know.
I
Somebody
don't
else
know,
posted that. I didn't post that one, but
you didn't post that, right? Is that something you would agree with, or I mean,
um,
as
so I mean, what exactly is that? Does that mean that
well,
quote?
it seems to be stating there that
I'm just looking
um,
for it right now.
although he might not be a traditional believer as such, but he's saying that the universe is a reflection of reason and beauty, and that the reason and beauty are actually out there in reality and not just in the human mind, and that somehow that the universe is a product of a profound reason and beauty, and that our reason is only can only just scrape the surface of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard arguments like that. Obviously, as before, we can only understand so much. We don't have the capacity to understand the full, whatever is going on out there. And I mean, I don't believe that really. I mean, my grandfather was, quote unquote rocket scientist. He actually really was a rocket scientist. He worked at McDonnell Douglas rocket making rockets in his career. So he was a smart guy. And
Mm.
I remember as a kid always asking him questions, and I remember my mom used to tell me, "Ask your grandpa. He has an answer for everything." And like as a kid, I always believed that because I would always ask him anything, and he would always have an answer for everything, and he was a smart guy. And I think I adopted that kind of mindset, that scientific mindset that he had, which was basically needing reasons, or I mean facts,
Yeah,
tangible
yeah,
facts to believe in things. And I just I have a hard time believing in things that are not tangible in front of me. That I mean,
yeah.
that's just how it's been for me.
And
Naturally,
yeah,
it's
I
always been that way for
understand where
me.
you're coming from there. But
Yeah.
don't you, wouldn't it be the case that the science, major presupposition of science really is that the universe is intelligible, that it's rational, and um, if atheism is true, it seems to be the opposite conclusion. I mean, um, you had a fascinating video on your page of a spider, and it's just an amazing like engineer, this spider weaving this
Yeah.
web, and
Right.
yet not to disrespect the spider, but its brain is only got he's only got a pinhead of a brain, hasn't he?
Right.
He's not
If
really
that,
a
if that,
rational
yeah. I
being,
don't even
but
know how much
he's
of a
making
brain it
this
has.
amazing spider's web. So it looks like there's something rational within nature. Um, and isn't that the basis of science? Isn't the basis of science that there are laws of nature, there are mathematical um, equalities out there that the mind responds to?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to something like that, I mean, see, I mean, I don't attribute it to anything special. I just attribute it to that's an organism that developed. What did it start
Mm,
out as? As in the world of evolution, did it start
mm,
out as something that just spun a couple webs that were straight lines, and then the ones that started spinning better webs that were circles eventually evolved to be the ones that survived. That's kind of the way I
Mm.
think of it. I mean, I don't give it any special reason and all that stuff. I just, evolution took it to that place, and the survival of the fittest, basically.
Yeah.
So as an atheist, I mean,
So you would
of
go,
course,
so
I'm
you
going
would
to
go
believe
down the
that.
line really of saying that the reason for reason is non-reason,
The
ultimately.
reason, the reason for reason is non-reason,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, as an atheist, I just don't think there's anything extraordinary. I think it's just a product of
There's no
years
beauty,
and
no
time. It's a
beauty
product
and
of time,
wonder, and
basically.
there's no real beauty then
There's
in
beauty
reality.
looking at it. I mean, it's, I'm not going to take away from the beauty of what I see. I mean, when I see when I see this spider spinning this awesome, beautiful circle orb spider web, I appreciate it. I appreciate the beauty of it. And it's, to me, it's amazing that this little organism can do that with, I
Mm.
mean, I don't know nobody knows how it's doing it or what's going through its little brain or whatever. It's just instinctual. It just does it. How does it
Yeah.
know where to put the webs? It's something that we'll probably never understand. Um, but I still don't attribute that to any kind of higher power. I don't think there's a higher power that's putting things like that on earth. I mean, I think it's just a product of the natural way of life and nature, and that's just where that thing has evolved to.
Right.
And of course, I do appreciate what it is. I mean, that's why I posted the video of it, because I'm fascinated by
Mm.
stuff that's interesting in
Yeah.
life.
Thank you for that. I found it fascinating.
Yeah. So anything
So
in
would you
life
say that
I can
in that
appreciate.
case, would you say are there any good reasons to be an atheist?
Um,
I
I
know
would
I
never
posted this,
argue.
but
I
by
would
the way,
never
I posted
argue
this on your
toward.
site, and I got 1,000
What's that?
comments. So people accuse me of being a troll for asking the question.
Oh yeah.
But
You know what? To be honest with you, I don't think I would ever argue for being an atheist. I think it's something that people have to come to on their own. Because that's the way I did it. Nobody ever argued it for me. I never sought any information about why I should become an atheist. To me, it was just a personal thing that it happened on its own, through my own experiences. And
right.
I never actually looked for a reason why I should be one. And I don't think I would ever try to make somebody be one. I think people need to, either not believe or believe on their own. It's just a very personal thing. So I mean, my page in my group, it's just an avenue for anybody to talk about it. So I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that are there that are kind of on the fence, agnostics and stuff like that are probably seeking information on their own to find that, to find whatever it is for themselves, whether they should be a believer or not be a believer. And
Yeah.
that's also another good reason why to have my page and my group, is because it just gives another place for these people to talk about things without being stressed or worried about being shot down and attacked, because obviously the majority of the people in this world are religious. And anytime
Mm.
somebody says anything about atheists, especially when it comes to Middle East countries or other places that are really they really have to watch out, the pages give an avenue where they can ask questions and things like that, and discuss it and debate it and come up with whether or not they're going to be an atheist on their own. And I don't even like saying becoming an atheist, because like it's not something that
Just a
anybody should
lack of
strive.
belief.
It's not something that anybody should strive for, to be an atheist. It's just whether or not you believe in a higher power or not. And if if you get to a point in life where you just don't believe in anything anymore, then I guess you're called an atheist, and that's what you're labeled as.
Yeah. But with defining it negatively, what would be the best worldview positively that would fit with a lack of belief in God? Would it be nihilism, the belief that there's no real point to life, or would it be more positive like humanism, or would it be agnosticism, like you just don't know, or some other logical positivism? There's a whole list of things that might be atheist.
Well, all right, I've seen the argument many times where religious people will ask, or not ask, but even just mention hey, if you're an atheist, you have no values, and you don't believe in anything, and the world's going to be a chaotic place and stuff like that. And I like to think of myself as complete proof that they're wrong with that idea, because I myself, I'm a very, I like to think of myself as a very helping, caring type of person.
Yeah,
I
seen that.
think
We've seen that.
I think and I'll say just as good as a religious person when it comes to morals and values like that. I mean, just because I'm not religious doesn't mean I can't be a good person in society, because I
Mm,
have I have a strong belief that as somebody as part of a society, I need to do my part in society to make sure that society stays,
mm,
what it is, basically following the laws and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I am. Just because I'm atheist and I don't believe that there's anything, I don't believe that there's a higher power or heaven or hell that I'm gonna go to. I believe I'm gonna be worm food or whatever. It doesn't mean that I should act out negatively or aggressively or badly. I still
yeah.
I still am a good person in society, and like you mentioned earlier, there's a guy that needs help with his car, and I saw that, and the first thing I think is, hey, let me go help the guy, because that's
Sure.
just who I am. So I'm proof that people are wrong when they say, people atheists are, going to be it's going to make the world chaotic or whatever like that.
Mm,
That, to me, as far as I'm concerned, that's absolutely not true. And
yeah.
I like to think of
But
myself as a
some
very,
but
very
some
good.
atheists have concluded that themselves, haven't they? That life is pointless and there's no. Someone
Yeah,
like.
I mean, I can, and yeah, that's true, because if you are somebody who is an atheist and doesn't believe in a higher power, then if you, I mean, what do you, if you think about it, then we're just here, living a life randomly. There's no reason for us to be here. Why are we
Mm,
living a life? It's kind of a hard question to answer. There really is no major reason. It is, we're here. We're the random chance that happened, and here we are on Earth for 70 or 80 years, hopefully, and these people, some of these people, especially if they're going through hard times in life, then these are going to be people that are going to have tough times, thinking about, why am I here and what's the reason to live and stuff like that.
mm.
So and I've always
How
said,
do you go about deciding as well if say if nature is everything, um, but we know that nature is both cruel and kind. We see that both of those things in nature. If there's nothing that transcends nature,
mm-hmm,
how can we decide when to follow it or not? And we are also part of nature, so surely anything we do is natural in that case. And isn't everything therefore right in one sense? I think the Marquis de Sade said, if nature is everything, everything is right, because there's nothing higher to sort of judge it. What
yeah, I
would be
mean,
your thoughts on that?
well, as far as like, as far as I was talking about, like, for an atheist to want to be a good person in society, I mean, that's pretty much that's what you're gonna have to think about, is, do you want to be somebody that's not, a part of society that we've created, following the laws and all that stuff, or do you want to be somebody that just sits around and veggies away and does nothing in life?
Mm,
And I think it's just a simple question of that. I mean, there's things that make me happy in life that I do. I have hobbies or whatever it is I do, and I don't need a higher power to keep me going forward. Basically, as far as I'm concerned, just being happy is a good enough motivation to keep me going straight and forward. And I enjoy the happy times in life and the friends and family that I have, and as long as I have that enjoyment, then it's all good for me. So I
right.
can't speak for
We've got a
other
few.
people, but I mean,
Sorry, we've got a
yeah,
few
good.
viewers' comments coming through which I haven't read yet,
Yeah,
but I'll just maybe take a few of these.
sure.
Somebody's put. I don't know if this is for me or you. Once randomness begins to take any semblance of order, it has a better chance of gaining more order. Evolution could possibly snowball into a world of great order. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
that's probably something you would accept, is it?
yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you know, I can't remember the movie. There was a movie I saw that I think it was a Tom Cruise movie a long time ago, where the end of the movie, I think it took place in the future, and
Or
it
is it
was really
Minority
far.
Report?
What's that?
Minority Report.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was Minority Report. It wasn't Minority Report. It was another movie. But basically, what I'm trying to get at is I think, and at the end of the movie, there was basically a world where there was no religion anymore, and everybody got along, and it was just this, a society of people that didn't have anything to follow. But I've always been of the belief that in order for society, that the world that we live in, for humans evolution, I think, to achieve the next step in evolution or progress for humans, it's going to be at a time when there is no more religion, and it's not going to be for a long time. I mean,
But we don't have to look far back in history to see that experiment hasn't worked very well in communist Russia, or under Pol Pot as well. Or even today in North Korea, is that a utopia?
Yeah, but that's forced. I'm talking about when people eventually get to a point where everybody is not forced to not believe, where people are on their own, just don't believe anymore. And that's why I'm saying it's not going to happen for a really long time. But I mean, I know that I don't know what the numbers are, but I think atheists around the world, or especially in the Western world, has become a lot more prevalent nowadays than it used to be. So I think there's a lot more people now that are kind of veering towards, not believing anymore than it used to be. I mean, when my parents were in the 1950s or whatever, 60s, I mean, it was just everybody went to church, and nowadays it's just not like that anymore. And so I think, I'm sure it's a troubling thing for the religious groups, but a lot more people are kind of veering towards atheism these days.
Yeah, I guess we're concerned about the census figures recently in the UK, which showed a drop in church attendance and people identifying as
And
Christian.
then it doesn't help. It doesn't help when you have these like the Catholic, priests with the kids and everything. These big issues like that. I mean, it's going to really turn on a lot of people off to it. Because why would that happen? Why would God let these priests in the Catholic world, so many of them, terrorize these kids? Why would God do that? It doesn't make sense. And then you're going to have a bunch of people who are like, this doesn't make sense. How can I believe in a God that lets that happen to kids? So things like that is just, I'm sure it really hurts those religions.
Yeah. Although without any moral framework other than nature, I don't know how you can really have a basis for making a moral, objective moral judgment about things like that.
And actually, I mean, could you answer that? Why would God do that or let that happen to kids in the Catholic world with all these priests, taking advantage of these kids? Like, why would that happen? Why would God let that happen?
Yeah, I think if you watch my YouTube video on the puzzle of evil, I try and deal with this to some extent. I mean, I think the suffering of children is one of the worst or hardest things to explain.
Yeah.
As a Christian.
Yeah.
And so I take a certain amount of agnostic. Take a certain amount of agnostic response to it. But I think that. And Dostoevsky tries to deal with this in The Brothers Karamazov. He says, "Would you construct a universe if it was, if it had to be built on the unavenged tears of the innocent children?" Although he himself didn't lose his faith, and the novel shows some value in suffering.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough event or events for the Catholic religion. Yeah, I'm sure it really hurt a lot of their members.
Certainly evil is evil, and it won't be unavenged, and it will be and suffering will be transformed. Because on atheism, there's no hope really of evil being eradicated, whereas on the Christian worldview, we believe in the resurrection, and so there is a future state where all suffering will be compensated and transformed.
Well, as an atheist, I mean, there's going to be evil and there's going to be goodness in the world. I mean, and then what is the definition of evil and goodness to an atheist? I mean, it's just bad just things nature. Happen, and good things happen.
Yeah.
Somebody gets into a car crash. Or how about this? Let's go to the extreme. I mean, there's a murderer, somebody murders somebody, and that's an evil thing, that's a bad thing. But but then at the same time, there's people that do good. There's people that spend their their Saturday and Sunday collecting food for the homeless, and so you have your good and your bad, and I don't attribute it to the devil or anything like that. It's just for the people that are out there that are murdering other people, they've got a mental problem. They've got chemical imbalances in their brain that makes them act that way. They have depression and things like that that are making them do crazy things like that. So I don't think it's the devil working on them.
Yeah. There's about 6 people trying to make comments here. I don't know if we've got time for them all, but I'll try and whip through a few.
Let's blow through them.
Put, I think randomness cannot exist without determinism. For there to be randomness, there has to be a set of rules from which determinism diverges to become randomness. That's just a comment.
Yeah, okay.
Indeed, a presupposition of science is that through experiment we can identify patterns in nature eventually, and so we assume that the universe nature is intelligible. If not, then there wouldn't be a reason for applying the scientific method so repeatedly. I agree with that.
It's a comment. Yeah.
We probably both agree with that, but for different reasons. And indeed, many people who are scientists will be out of a job. But what are the laws of society based upon? Where do they derive from ultimately? Somebody's asked. Yeah, because you were talking about we need to follow the laws of society. But how do you derive an ethic from nature? How do you derive an ethic from nature when nature can be both cruel and kind at the same time?
Well, it's like the law. When I say laws of society, I mean that's basically a civilization or a huge group of people coming together and deciding what laws we should follow. I mean it's a collaboration between all the people that are living together that are agreeing to abide by a certain set of rules that they've created. So
would it be based on the 51%, what the 51% of people think?
Exactly, I guess, yeah. I mean, hopefully it's a larger percentage than that, because otherwise there's probably going to be some problems. But yeah, it's I live in a society, and I follow the laws, the local laws, and so does everybody else, and that keeps it from being chaotic. So that's basically the laws of society. Society dictates the laws.
Behind that, isn't there a bigger thing though called justice, which is not dependent on the 51%? Otherwise there'd be no progress. That slavery, if there was a time when a majority of people thought that was okay,
right?
If we just went on the majority view, then that was okay.
It was at the time.
That would be the definition of okay. But if there's such a thing as justice, then we're moving towards justice, and it's something objective and transcendent.
So like a thing like slavery, it's a good example. There was a time where it was perfectly acceptable, and it was acceptable to those who wanted slaves. Obviously to the slaves themselves it was not acceptable, and through the years eventually people started seeing that, hey, maybe this is not the greatest idea, and then eventually the society changed their view on it, and then it changes. So there's always room for improvement, and this society dictates that improvement. It's what the majority of people decide. So when the slaves were happening, I'm sure there was a small group of people that didn't like the idea, but it didn't matter because it was like you said, less than 50%. Once you have a large enough group of the population that wants to make the change, then it's going to happen.
Thank you. Somebody's asking, do laws of society derive from a moral code or codes that are ultimate and or relative? I think we've discussed that.
Yeah.
Unless you want to say anything else on it.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think a large part of the society, laws and stuff have a lot to do with religion. And, due to the fact that religion has been so prevalent throughout all the years, and how many people were religious, I think a lot of the laws have a lot to do with the moral values of religion, because that's probably where they came from. And I'm perfectly fine with that, to be honest with you, because if it benefits me in a way that it makes people happy and things like that, then I'm fine with it. And I said this many times to people, like I actually think religion is a good thing for a lot of people in this world. There's a lot of people that probably are better off being believers and having that foundation, and that moral,
If that's the
basically.
case, then wouldn't the best explanation for that be that God exists?
For them, probably not for me though. So the thing that I think is good for it is just like, I mean, people go to church on Sundays. They have a bunch of like-minded individuals going to the same place. Everybody's making friends with each other, and to me that's a valuable thing. I don't have a problem with that, and I think it's good for a lot of people because there's a lot of people that need that togetherness, that closeness of relationships with people. And I, you know, for atheists who don't have an avenue to be together, they miss out on that kind of togetherness. So that's why I say for certain people, it's a religion is good because it does give them, it puts them in a group
some
atmosphere.
are forming these atheist churches now, aren't they? Or at least they are in this country.
Yeah,
to try and create that togetherness.
I can see how I mean, it doesn't surprise me because I mean, like, here I am with an atheist page and atheist group, and it's like, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of atheists there that are happy it exists because it's a place where there's other like-minded individuals, and naturally, that's how humans are. Humans gravitate towards, like-minded individuals and people that are the same, and it makes them feel more comfortable, more at ease. So it doesn't surprise me that there's atheist groups that are forming like that, and then of course you're going to get the argument, well, if a atheist group forms, then they're a religion, and then all that stuff. And I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say about that, but to me, it's just I think it's just a bunch of.
By the way, a thumbs up from somebody here saying, great comment from Peter about where laws come from. Many of the laws do derive from religion, but that doesn't mean that they didn't come from man.
Right. Yeah, I mean, right, exactly. Ultimately, it comes from man's voice, or man and woman, obviously, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that there's groups that are forming, but I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just people that need that contact from other like-minded individuals to be able to talk and discuss about the thing that they agree with together. Yeah.
I don't know how. Well, I think we might have to pull in about 5 minutes. Somebody else is saying to suggest that the laws of society weren't invented by the people in that society or built upon the laws that were created by people from societies before them. To suggest that these laws could not have come from the people themselves who wanted to live without everyone trying to kill each other. To suggest that this is a long one, to suggest that these laws must have come from a higher power is a huge leap in logic. The idea that it came from the people themselves is a much easier conclusion to draw. So I guess that's directed against me.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with that. Even though I think that a lot of these laws of these days probably did come from religious groups or whatever and their values. Yeah, I agree. It came from just a man's voice. I mean, I don't think it came from a higher power. It's just like I said, when you have a group of people. My response to
that would be to point to someone like Derrida, who would try to deconstruct anything and say how it was based on just human constructs. And yet, the one thing even he couldn't deconstruct in the end was justice. And he said we have to live as if we will be judged by a future generation which is free. So, and that was perhaps reflecting his Jewish background against his atheism. I think we do have an innate sense of justice, which is not. There's no basis for that on atheism. All we have are positive laws, as you've just said, and those are at the end of the day they're arbitrary. We can't derive them from nature itself because nature is kind and cruel. And so the best explanation for justice is a God of justice.
A God of justice.
That'd be my point. I wonder if you could comment on, somebody put on your post, I am merely, as an atheist, I said, I am merely the rearrangement of pre-existing mass energy. Would you agree with that? It's a definition of a human being, a rearrangement of mass and energy.
I perhaps I might believe in that. I mean, I don't think I know enough about this, how the science of that works and stuff. But I mean, when it comes to living and then dying and then the body dissolving into the earth and then somehow it turning back into particles or whatever. I mean, yeah, I guess that could happen. I don't know enough about the science and how particles and energy and all that stuff work to really answer that with any truth. But
or to take it one stage further, somebody like Daniel Dennett, who thinks that actually even self-awareness is an illusion, that all that's really happening is a physical brain is playing tricks on you, whatever you means. There's no such thing as consciousness. It's just a brain playing tricks on you. Is that the logical conclusion of atheism?
Well, I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, how's the brain playing tricks on me? I mean, how do you answer that? I mean,
to create this illusion of self. That?
What's that?
To create this illusion of self, of an I.
Yeah, but how would we know? How would you know that? I mean, if the brain's playing tricks on you and then it's not really happening, how would you know how would you know it's the brain's playing tricks on you or whatever? I mean, you wouldn't know that. That's just a random guess.
That's right.
With no back. There's nothing to back that up with.
But if all that exists is matter, that would seem to be the logical conclusion. So on his premise, Daniel Dennett seems to be consistent, really. His premise of materialism leads to the view that there's no self that's actually knowing anything or choosing anything.
But we have that.
There's no consciousness.
But we do have self. So I mean,
yeah.
How do you explain that we are aware of ourselves? So, I mean, he's saying that we don't. It's fake, but we do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I would explain it that his premise is wrong. That materialism is false. That matter isn't the only thing that exists. That persons also exist. And the best explanation for personality is a personal God as a source of personality. So mind didn't emerge from matter, but matter emerges from mind.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
Which then gives a basis for science, because science is rational and it's mind-like. The universe is mind-like. It's built on mathematical principles, etc. So it seems to be that by default, theism is the most rational worldview because it gives a reason for reason. Whereas on atheism, there's no reason for reason, only non-reason.
Yeah, but see, why does he feel the need that there has to be a reason for something? And why can't things just be?
Because then it wouldn't be a rational worldview.
And that's one of the things I've noticed about religious people is they always have to have reason for something. And as far as I'm concerned, not everything has to have a reason. Sometimes there's.
Well, you could be right, but then the nihilist is correct, isn't it? The nihilist is then correct that life has no point. But then so a lot of atheists like the title of free thinking rationalist. But how can they use that title if they don't believe in reason?
Yeah.
You see what my point?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, we'll move on. I don't know how long we've got. I think we might have gone on over time, actually.
Okay.
Perhaps Joey might interrupt us in a moment.
Well, if that's it, it's been fun. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, we can keep going a little bit longer. I've not been called time yet. Yes. We're out of time. Oh, okay. Well, can I just thank him then? All right. Can I thank him or?
Yeah, no problem.
Right, okay. Yeah. Okay. We have run out of time, folks. So I want to thank Peter again for coming on for a very frank and honest discussion. I've found it fascinating. I hope you've enjoyed it as a live audience. Thank you for the comments that have come through. And please do consider coming on again, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Bye.
Take care.